of Elections, and it's almost, he's staying after hours to do this. It's 5 minutes till 5, and we're talking about ballot definition files. And first of all, I'm going to backtrack because we were just talking, so this is backtracking a little bit for Matt. I'm going to backtrack about the fact that Cuyhaoga County, am I correct in saying that Cuyhaoga County does program its own ballots?
Yes.
Okay. And can you, one of the issues that came up about proofing the ballots, which we are now able to do, we get notices about doing that, and we proof the printed ballots.
Right.
But in a virtual world, in a computer world, I'm wondering, is it possible to see the coding that goes on behind those, kind of like in a Word doc? If you say show the invisibles, there are a lot of commands that are going on.
There's no function in GEMS that would allow us to view the code behind the ballots, so we can't view that any more than the public can.
Okay. Is there does the tech, and I'm asking from the most suspect views, not suspect of the Cuyhaoga County Board of Elections, just for general usage for debold counties. But in our case, can the tech see the code? No.
No, they can only see what we see.
Really?
Which is the GEMS interface and any output, any paper ballots or ballots on the touchscreen devices.
Okay. Are there any contingencies where after the candidates' names come up, are put in, that there could be coding that would instruct the instruct the computer to record a vote differently than what the voter thought they were casting?
I don't know of a way to do that.
Because the candidates are put in here.
Right.
Does anybody who knows the coding, who understands it, has access to the coding, have access to...
No one has access to our machines except for our staff. And if a debold tech is looking at it, they're always with our staff. And they're strictly hands-off the machines.
They are hands-off?
They're hands-off.
Okay.
Any touching or manipulation of the GEMS system is done by ballot department staff.
Uh-huh. Okay, cool. What's Archie's last name?
Williams.
Williams. Okay, I didn't have it when I wrote the blog. And did Archie help with the setup of the tabulation on election night? Was he aware of how many TSXs you were using, etc.? And
yeah, he was aware of all that stuff. He wasn't instrumental in any of the decision making behind it, though.
But he didn't object to it?
No.
Okay. Good. I mean, I assumed that, and I just wanted to check that out. Okay. So the basic question that I started out with on election day that we ran out of time for was, I got some pictures, as you know, of the scanners as they were set up, and I may do some outside the window again. The scanners won't be out on Saturday, but on Sunday they will be.
We'll be setting them up Saturday afternoon and doing our pre-test on them.
Okay. Okay, cool. I'll probably be here, so I'll probably get some photographs of that. So when the scanners are set up, and I'm going to turn the camera so we can see what the cords look like, but when they're not set up with the, I changed all kinds of things on the tripod. The tripod is just acting really, I don't know.
Smile!
I know. Isn't he good? Okay, good. And these are the cords that go up into the ceiling, and there is, I'm going to close in, there are a couple of blue cords and a couple of black cords.
There are 4 blue cords and 1 black cord at each location.
Okay.
And the 4 blue cords are network cords. It's a standard Category 5 network cable.
And that networks to...
That networks from the group of 4. It goes into a cluster of 40 that are by that central pillar by the no smoking sticker there.
Okay.
And those 40 connect into a router And then the router has a single wire that runs back up through the ceiling and into the tabulation, and that connects to the server.
Is there any way, I lost you, is there any way for a wireless, any kind of wireless hacking into that network?
No, there's no wireless connection to it at all. The routers don't support wireless, the server doesn't support wireless,
Okay,
and the scanners definitely don't.
okay, okay, all right. And the black cord is just power?
That's a power cable, right?
Okay, and the power is where's that connected down?
It's somewhere in the basement in our main power. Right
Okay,
there.
okay. Okay. Now, I may get photographs of this on Sunday, but when you were scanning, there you have a header sheet. It says header sheet on it,
Right.
and there's an N. There's a piece of 8.5 by 11 paper that says N sheet, basically.
Right.
Okay. We are set up, and correct me if I'm wrong. Just correct whatever misunderstandings I might have. We have the tabulator is set up. In that case or the scanners are set up for central count.
Right.
That means that they can access the database of all the ballots, is that correct? Of all the different ballot styles.
Right. When you feed a ballot in, some of the timing marks on that ballot identify the precinct of that ballot to the system.
Okay,
And then the system basically interprets the ballot, or the oval positions on the ballot, based on those timing marks telling it this is the precinct, so it knows what oval positions relate to what candidate in what race.
okay. And I noticed that there was one remake from the first set, from the original set of absentees, where someone had actually cut off their timing mark.
Right.
You know? Did it very carefully, too.
Yes.
Is there any other way that those marks on the side, is there?
Well, the side marks, they identify a grid pattern to tell the system this is an oval position, this is not an oval position.
Oh, those
It's
side marks.
The side marks.
Is there possibly
The
a
bottom
blank
marks are
ballot
those
of
identified.
any kind that I could photograph? So that I could get a,
I may have a very old one from an expired election. I can show you one of those.
do you mind?
Sure.
Do you mind
Do that.
getting one? And I'll turn this off and,
Sure. Timing marks down the sides, you can see they occur on both sides, identify a grid pattern so that the center of this mark will identify the center horizontally of an oval position. You can see that these ovals clearly line up with these timing marks.
okay,
These marks across the top identify the vertical positions of valid oval positions as well. So this actually lines up right with that. These marks along the bottom, you can see that there's a pattern here and a different pattern that occurs on the back. These identify the precinct and the election.
how come they look different on two sides?
One side, and I don't know which is which,
Go
one
ahead.
side identifies the actual precinct. So for example, these little marks right along here and the open spaces identify this as Lakewood 1I. And then
It's printed on there? I can't.
it's
Okay,
printed
I'm
very small at the bottom,
Okay.
that it's a Lakewood 1I. It's also printed real big over here. Jumping
Okay.
around. And
No, it's
messing you
okay.
up.
I'm sorry. I made the pin on the, there. Got it. Okay.
So some of the timing marks, either front or back, and I don't know which,
Got it.
identify the precinct.
Got it.
The other timing marks, which occur on the back that look very different, identify the election. This is a May 8th, 2007 expired ballot here. This is
Okay.
actually a testing ballot anyway.
Okay.
So some of the marks identify the election, other marks identify the precinct, and through the combination of that, talking to the server, it knows exactly what these oval positions, where they are, and what they represent.
What they represent. Okay. Okay. And I'm not going to hold you to it because I know that you said that you can't quite remember, but what do you think is approximately, I know you can tell me that you're going to check, but what do you think is approximately our last date?
It should be about a week before absentee opens.
Okay, before absentee opens. And
Right.
what's the...
The significance of that is we need time to finalize the ballot position, which would be, if this was a candidate ballot and somebody withdrew, this area would change, it would become shorter, so these oval positions would actually move up.
Got it.
So a ballot that was printed in the earlier version would no longer read correctly under the new setting of the database.
Okay.
And so we need time to, after withdrawal, to reproof the ballots, because you always have to reproof after any changes.
Okay.
And then to get those files out to our print vendor in time to deliver at the open of absentee.
Okay, and so, so remind me, absentee opens, do you remember?
Absentee opens 35 days before an election, except for the presidential primary, it opens a little bit later.
Okay. Okay, and that actually means that people can get their absentee ballot. They can begin requesting.
They can begin requesting.
And you can begin sending them.
The beginning of requests is really a procedural issue. By that 35th day before the election, we start mailing, and we're open for absentee voting here at the board.
Okay, okay. All right. Got it. Okay. And do you know if any of the other Diebold counties have Diebold actually program their ballot definitions?
I don't know for a fact. I know that
Okay.
Diebold offers that service, but I don't know if anyone's taking advantage of it.
Okay. Do you know anything about any of the ES&S counties?
Very little.
Got it. In this last election.
There were 195 styles.
Okay. And we also talked about the pretest, which I don't think we got on camera.
No, I don't think we did.
So the pretest is going to start, now that you're going to start the official canvass, you've waited how many days after the unofficial?
We'll start on the 11th day after the unofficial.
On the 11th day, and so you're starting the scanning on
We're going to be scanning on Sunday.
Sunday?
We're going to be opening absentees and provisional ballots on Saturday.
Okay, and those absentees, do you have any idea about how many absentees came in after the ones that were here with the last batch, the bulk of them, which was about almost 24,000, wasn't
Right,
it?
and there are an additional 5,500 plus or minus.
Okay, and provisionals, they're about...
Provisionals, the last number I saw was a little over 3,400.
Yeah, I talked to Betty about that, not on camera. Okay, so you're going to be doing that scanning. So, what was I going to ask you? So before you start the scanning process, are you going to do the pretest again?
We are going to do the pretest on every scanner.
Okay, and the pretest, does the pretest test every single ballot style?
No, the pretest does not.
Okay,
The pretest basically meets a series of criteria that are listed in revised code and in the Secretary of State's directive.
okay,
That it basically tries to replicate all the nuances that would occur on a ballot. Split precinct with two different school districts in the same precinct.
okay,
A single precinct race.
Okay.
A race with multiple winners.
okay,
And then we also have to do overvotes, blank voted races, things like that to ensure that it can pick up all these different little nuances.
that's what the test deck does.
That's the pretest.
That's the pretest.
Right.
And you check all 4 orientations too in that pretest.
Right.
Now the test deck, the LNA tests, do you do those on every single scanner?
Yeah.
Every single scanner. And do you do those with the ballots that come from the printer?
Yes.
Okay, not Ballot-On-Demand.
No, we don't use Ballot-On-Demand for anything except for vital emergencies.
Hoo-ha, that's wonderful. And I really like that. I don't like Ballot-On-Demand.
You don't like Ballot-On-Demand?
No,
Yeah.
because it's a good way, I mean, for people. See, you guys are honest, and you just can't imagine what people might do. But when a Board of Elections has the ability to print as many ballots as they want, I think it's dangerous if there's no real...
Cheap. Inexpensive.
But it's a cheap way of stuffing a ballot box, too, without anybody knowing. I mean, anybody outside.
I would just hope that everybody's honest, you know, and like Hamilton, frankly, who does ballot by demand, and I look at their cost for printing, they print in-house, and I'm like, wow, what a big difference. And I just assume that they're honest people down in Hamilton County.
Do you mind if they're, okay.
You have nothing else to say on that one?
Okay, no, okay, but do they use serial, is the paper serially numbered?
Yes,
That they get for ballot on demand?
it has to be. Any actual ballot has to have serialized stubs. You knew the answer, didn't you?
I knew the answer there, yes. I was
Okay.
going to say that. Thank you, Matt.
Do they have to print them, I mean, is there any kind of audit log that shows when those ballots were printed? And do they have to print them all before the election?
I would say not on Ballot-On-Demand, they wouldn't, of course, but they do in-house printing of ballots. So I don't know their technical thing, but I want to reiterate,
Okay.
you know, that I would
Okay, so
assume.
I had asked you about ballot-on-demand stock.
Right.
And so can you show me a piece of ballot-on-demand stock?
Why, sure.
Thank you.
This is pretty much what it looks like. It's 110-pound card stock.
Okay, you want to wave it?
You can see it's fairly stiff paper.
Got it, thank you. And I'm going to zoom in. It's blank.
It is completely blank. It's entirely blank on this side. Even the stubs are blank on the back. And on the front, I don't know if you can see the perforation lines here, but there are perforation lines to remove the stubs and separate them here and here.
Oh, they're just like little
Little-
embossments almost. They're not even...
They're little punctures all the
Are
way
there?
across there. And then you have stub A, stub B, and then it says consecutive numbering. And then this number here, for each different piece of stock, increments by 1.
Okay, and how many pieces of this stock do you keep on hand?
Oh, I've got 4 full boxes. So
Okay, how much
probably
is
close to
500?
5,000 sheets.
Okay, all right.
Somewhere in there.
How many have you used? You probably used some last November when
We've gone through about a half a box total since we got it all.
Okay,
So
and
not very much.
how many are in a box?
I believe there's 1,000 in a box. There may be a little more than that.
Do you have to get some sort of special permission before you can use ballot on demand?
No.
Okay,
No, ballot on demand is part of the deal when you use optical scan ballots, as long as you have the equipment to do it.
okay,
You do have to make sure that it conforms to all the rules. It's got to have the right weight, got to be the right size, got to have removable stubs, and the stubs have to be sequentially numbered.
and is there any kind of audit log showing the number that you've printed?
For individual elections, there are logs. There's not an overall log that says,
Right.
you know, day 1 we got this many, and then from then on covering it. But for any election where we've used it, we do record the numbers.
Okay, and do you make that public information?
I suppose we would. And no one's ever asked before, but
Well, that's
you know,
part-
we're a public
that-
agency, so I suppose it's public information.
Well,
It
it
take a
is.
little digging because it's filed away with those elections.
No, I don't need that right now, but I'm just wondering about future policy about having to get some sort of publicly, or, you know, informing or getting permission from the director, the deputy director. The concern obviously is, the end run concern is twofold. One is, I'm not accusing you, but the end run is if a person inside the board, without anybody else knowing, can print off as many ballots as they want, then it's a way of stuffing the ballot box.
Right, and there are safeguards against that procedurally. All the ballot stock is kept in the tabulation room, which, as you know, is double locked, and even the keys to get in there are in a safe box where no single person has the entire code. You have to have
Right,
2 people
right.
with you to even get into that room.
Okay,
And then, in order to print, you have to know the operation of GEMS.
okay,
So you have to have a password to get into the GEMS server. You have to have an understanding of how to do it, how to actually create a ballot on demand.
okay.
So there are some procedural safeguards in place.
Does then, when it prints, does it print all the timing marks correctly? If you give it the right ballot definition?
The timing marks are correct. The problem that we've had with ballot on demand, and that we continue to experience when we try and use it, is that the front and back are not perfectly matched up. There'll be a little bit of a twist, sort of, you know, it should be just like this,
Yep.
and instead it's more like that.
Got it.
And that doesn't work with the scanners
Okay, so those have to be
So-
hand counted.
in most cases, yes. And that's why, as a general rule, we only use them as a last resort when there's absolutely nothing else we can do to serve that vote.
And that has been, like, what's an instance?
We used a couple during the November election
Of '06.
of this year.
Of this year?
Was November? There were a couple we used. I can't say for sure that it was November. Now that I
Okay.
think about it.
For what reason?
Absentee opened, officially 35 days, you open absentee. The ballots from the printer were not ready yet.
Got
And
it.
so we did have to print a couple. And
Okay.
we knew they were going to be remakes. It was not for November, though. I can't
Okay.
think of which election it was. One of the late September elections, I think.
Okay, all right. And last November, do you have any memory of, remember when there was so much confusion and the machines wouldn't go up and there weren't enough ballots, and Jackie Maiden said at that point at the board meeting that the board, we were sending out more ballots to those locations? Were those ballot on demand?
No, anything that went to the locations has always been printed by our print vendor,
Okay,
MCR.
okay. So these would be, the ballot on demand things would be, ballots would be mostly those from absentee requests,
For in-house voting.
in-house voting?
Right.
Okay, got it, thanks.
Sure.
Loads.